The interactions of Hindus and Muslims, though sometimes violent, created dynamic developments in religious thought, politics, economics, art, and architecture. Despite this strong Islamic presence in the region, local Hindu kingdoms continued to play a major role in India. A third religion, Buddhism, also had a strong presence in the area, particularly in the Sinhala dynasties in present-day Sri Lanka and the great kingdoms of Southeast Asia. South Asia was only occasionally united as a single state in its history. After the Gupta dynasty that had dominated South Asia collapsed in 550, ending the so-called Golden Age or Classical era of Indian history, disunity returned to the region for most of the next 1,000 years. Northern and southern India developed separate political structures. However, Hinduism provided some cultural unity throughout the region. Many people combine their own local faith tradition with adherence to the same scripture and core beliefs respected throughout the region. In the early 13th century, Islamic forces managed to conquer the city of Delhi and much of the northern portion of South Asia, bringing Islam into India. The Delhi Sultanate reigned for 300 years, from the 13th through the 16th centuries. The interactions of Islam and Hinduism in northern India dominated the political history of this period. While some Hindus converted to Islam, others resented Muslims and considered them foreigners. One factor contributing to this resentment was that the Delhi Sultanate imposed a tax on all non-Muslim subjects of the empire. Throughout its reign, the Delhi Sultanate never organized an efficient bureaucracy in the style of the Chinese. For this reason, sultans had difficulty imposing their policy in a land as vast and diverse as India. Despite the strong Islamic presence in the region, local kingdoms continued to play a major role in India's decentralized political landscape. The sultans wanted to expand their rule southward. Before they succeeded, though, they became focused on defending themselves from the onslaught by the Mongol army from the northwest. The Delhi Sultanate prevented the Mongols themselves from conquering South Asia. However, in 1526, the sultans lost power to a new empire, the Mughals, whose leaders did trace their ancestry to the Mongols. Religion always held an important place in South Asian history. Before the arrival of Islam, most South Asians were either Hindu or Buddhist. As Islam arrived, they were confronted with a very different religion. Hindus pray to many gods, while Islam is strictly monotheistic. Hindu temples and artwork have pictures of deities, while Muslims disapprove of any visual representation of Allah. Hinduism was associated with an hierarchical caste system, while Islam has always called for equality of all believers. Hindus recognize several sacred texts, while Muslims look only to the Quran. The relationship between Hindus and Muslims shaped the history of South Asia beginning in the 7th century, and it continues to shape the region today. Islam initially entered India forcefully, yet eventually took on a more peaceful approach. But while Islam was a universalizing religion, one that wanted to actively seek converts, Muslim rulers found early in their reign that forcing their Hindu and Buddhist subjects to convert was not successful. Thus, most converts came to Islam voluntarily. Many Muslim merchants in the Indian Ocean trade moved to Indian port cities and married. Their wives often ended up converting to their husband's religion. With this emphasis on the equality of all believers, Islam also attracted low-caste Hindus who hoped that conversion would improve their social status. In this sense, Islam in India was like Christianity in the Roman Empire. Both appealed to the people who suffered the most under the existing social structure. The largest numbers of converts to Islam, however, were Buddhist. Corruption among the monks and raids on monasteries by early Muslim conquerors left the Buddhist religion disorganized. The spread of Islam helped make Buddhism a minority religion in the place of its birth. The arrival of Islam did little to alter the basic structure of society in South Asia. India's caste system was too strong. While obviously inequitable, it lent stability to the politically decentralized land. The caste system was flexible and able to accommodate newcomers. Muslim merchants and migrants, even though they were not Hindu, found a place for themselves within the caste hierarchy. These subcastes based on occupation operated like workers' guilds, soon becoming absorbed into the social fabric of Indian society. At the same time, most of those who tried to escape the grip of the caste system failed. The low-caste Hindus who converted to Islam as a way to improve their social status usually did not achieve that goal. Individuals required more education and opportunities for better jobs, not just a new religion. As Islam spread, Muslims varied how they applied its core teachings depending on their culture before converting. For example, Islam did not alter gender relations greatly. In South Asia, women in the Hindu tradition were confined to separate social sphere, and Islamic women received similar treatment. In Southeast Asia, women enjoyed more independence before the arrival of Islam. This pattern continued as people became Muslims. People in South Asia and the Middle East shared their intellectual and cultural achievements with each other. For example, Arab astronomers and mathematicians added to the body of knowledge begun by the Indian counterparts. Indian developments in algebra and geometry were translated into Arabic and spread throughout Dar al-Islam. One result of this movement of ideas was that the numeral system referred to in the West as Arabic numerals actually originated in India. Also amazingly, an entirely new language developed among Muslims in South Asia, Urdu. Urdu melded the grammatical pattern of Hindi, the language in northern India, with the vocabulary of Arabic and some elements of Farsi, the language of the Persians. Today, Urdu is the official language of Pakistan. Beginning in the 12th century, some Hindus began to draw upon traditional teachings about the importance of emotion in their spiritual life. Rather than emphasize studying text or performing rituals, they focused on developing a strong attachment to a particular deity. This development, known as the Bhakti movement, started in southern India. It was especially appealing to many believers because it did not discriminate against women or people of low social status. For example, one of the most famous figures in the Bhakti movement would be a female, the poet Mira Bai, who lived in the 16th century. Though the Bhaktis were Hindus, they were similar in some ways to Sufi Muslims. Both groups were mystical movements, ones that emphasized inner reflection in order to achieve a direct personal relationship with the deity. Because they placed less emphasis on strict adherence to traditional rituals and beliefs, Bhaktis and Sufis each appealed to people outside their traditions. Just as the Sufis helped spread Islam, the Bhaktis helped spread Hinduism. Like China, South Asia strongly influenced its neighbors, particularly the lands in Southeast Asia, today's Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. Indian merchants had contact with these areas as early as 500 BCE. The merchants sold gold, silver, metal goods, and textiles in the region and brought back its fine spices. Trade voyages introduced the Indian religions of Hinduism and Buddhism to Southeast Asia. Much of the region became and remains today mostly Buddhist. The region, like Southwest Asia, was strategically significant. Whoever controlled this region could influence the valuable trade between South Asia and East Asia. Because of its strategic importance, two sea-based kingdoms that were long-lasting emerged here. First was the Sri Vajraya Empire, and it was a Hindu kingdom based on Sumatra. It built its navy and prospered by charging fees for ships traveling between India and China. Also, the Majapahit kingdom, based on Java, had 98 tributaries at its heights. Like our former empire, the Majapahit sustained its power by controlling sea routes, but unlike them, they were a Buddhist country. Other kingdoms in Southeast Asia drew power from their control over the land. The Sinhala dynasties in Sri Lanka had their roots in the arrival of early immigrants, most likely merchants from North India. Buddhists arrived in the 3rd century BCE, and the island became a center of Buddhist study. Monasteries and nunneries flourished. Both men and women found a life of contemplation and simple living attractive. Buddhism was so deeply embedded that Buddhist priests often served as advisors to the monarchs. The government of one of the kingdoms oversaw the construction of a network of reservoirs and canals to create an excellent irrigation system, which contributed to economic growth. However, attacks by invaders from India and conflicts between the monarchy and the priests ultimately weakened the kingdom. The Khmer Empire, also known as the Angkor Kingdom, was situated near the Mekong River and also did not rely on sea power. The kingdom had a complex system of irrigation and drainage, and it led to economic prosperity. Irrigation allowed farmers to harvest rice crops several times a year, and drainage systems reduced the impact of the heavy monsoon rains. The Khmer capital was at Angkor Thom. The temples there showed a variety of Indian cultural influences, but sometime in the 12th or 13th century, they added Buddhist sculptures and artwork to the temples without destroying any of the Hindu artwork. Islam's movement into the Indian Ocean region copied its expansion elsewhere. The first Southeast Asian Muslims were local merchants who converted in the 700s, hoping to have better trade relations with the Islamic merchants. Islam was most popular in the urban areas at the time. Islam spread to Sumatra, Java, and the Malay Peninsula. Today, Indonesia includes more Muslims than any other country. Sufis also did missionary work in Southeast Asia. Because of their tolerance for local faiths, people felt comfortable converting to Islam. They could be Muslims and still honor local deities under the concept of Sufism.